Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Truth. I'm your host, one you love the most, Niall Hassan, back with a brand new episode here on The Truth, back with my brother Lucas. Lucas, final episode of the Avoid series, the Outfielders. Always an interesting position, right? Sometimes these outfielders are your money makers, but other times they're the ones that hold you down. So today, Lucas and I will be giving you guys three each, so six total outfielders that we are avoiding, whether that's because of ADP, injuries, production, whatever it is, just guys that you would rather avoid. Doesn't mean you're not supposed to draft them, but avoid for whatever reason and why is a big one. So without further ado, go ahead and give me your first outfield that you are avoiding.
Yeah, first guy for me is Crow-Armstrong. I make comparison to Bryce Terang in terms of why he's getting picked, except even on a lesser level. He only had 370 at-bats last year, but I think the number that really excites people is 27 stolen bases, which isn't even that much. But as I said with Terang, to steal bases, you need to get on base, which is a big problem for Crow-Armstrong. I mean, he had a 286 on-base percentage, which is just that's like a decent batting average, and you're just not going to make money like that. I mean, 21 walks to 98 strikeouts. So he has a strikeout problem. Hit 10 home runs, 47 RBIs, 13 doubles, 6 triples. But I think he might just get drafted a little high. I don't think he's terrible. But I also, if I wanted steals, I would rather get someone who can give me 20 steals instead of maybe 35, but who's hitting 265 and has an over 700 OPS, which Crow-Armstrong just does not have. And I think outfield is such a diverse position that I could find that.
For me, my first is going to be Kyle Tucker. Now, I know what people are saying. Kyle Tucker is a star, and I'm not saying that he isn't a star. I think he is. But right now, he's the third projected outfielder to go, which is a little bit surprising to me because he's over guys such as Mookie Betts, Fernando Tatis, Corbin Carroll, Alvarez, Rodriguez. I mean, just to name some of those guys right there, I would argue that those guys could be ahead of Kyle Tucker. Also, Kyle Tucker is going to be with the Cubs. Now, playing with the Cubs is obviously different than playing with the Astros. The Cubs, you never know what you're going to get out of the Cubs. But one thing is for sure, especially with Bregman and that Astros team, like there was a lot more opportunities for run producing from the Astros. Now moving over to Chicago, maybe that's an area that he lacks. I mentioned at the end of the last show with Max Muncy and third base that I'm always looking for guys that are going to be average and are going to find ways to dabble in every category. And Kyle Tucker does that. I mean, this is a guy year in and year out that's batting, 280. That's obviously huge. Anywhere from 23 to 30 home runs, 90 to 112 RBIs, even 11 to 30 stolen bases. One thing worth noting, though, and I know he dealt with injury last year, which is another reason why I'm a little bit hesitant to draft Kyle Tucker. It's the fact that he had 30 stolen bases the year before last year and only 11 this year. Now, granted, as I mentioned, I do know that he played about half of the games last, but when I watched the Astros games, it didn't look like he was necessarily comfortable stealing bases. Now, I know injuries come and go, but injuries do play a role for guys down the line and can kind of cause some limitations that you might not expect. So, Kyle Tucker, talent wise and the player wise, obviously is going to get you every category that you need. He's going to get you the most fantasy points, but how often is he going to be on the field and how consistent can his production be? Those two reasons are a big question mark for me, and one of the reasons why I'm avoiding him, especially with the third outfielder coming out of this class. What about the second guy?
Second guy for me is Chisholm Jr. for the Yankees. Saw him play a little bit today when I was watching some spring training because I had to tune in and watch against the Rays. This is a guy that I don't hate per se, but I think that I would not be drafting him as high. Like I saw some numbers that have him in the third round. I mean, he was the cover athlete for MLB Show, as I'm sure everybody knows. There is definitely hype around him. He plays a good game. I mean, 24 home runs, 73 RBIs, and 40 steals. Hit 256, 324 on base, 436 slug. So I think the 740, 750 OPS is a little surprising, especially considering how high he's looking. I think a third round pick is someone who's has an OPS above at least 800. And it's something about the Yankees. I don't know. I don't know his specific numbers in New York, but I don't hate drafting Yankees. Like last year, I would have absolutely drafted Juan Soto. I would draft Aaron Judge, but it just seems like a lot of big names not necessarily go to die. Like Chisholm's still young, but I think that the Yankees always just have so many people. Where is Chisholm going to fit in? The thing I do like about him is his versatility. He can play second base and he can play all the outfield positions, so he's going to give you that qualification for fantasy, which is maybe why he's projected so high. I just don't think he's a third round pick talent. Maybe fifth or sixth round, but I would not look at him as my first outfield option.
This one's going to be an interesting one for me. It's going to be Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, obviously, Ronald Acuna Jr. is coming off of injury. I believe it's his second ACL injury. It might be his third, but I'm pretty sure, I know for sure it's a second. So there's obviously should be some hesitancy going into that. Again, same thing with Kyle Tucker. There's no doubt about the talent that's there. I mean, obviously, he's a guy that fantasy is arguably the 101 every pick. I mean, every year for that matter. Now, obviously, Torres ACL again. He's dealt with injuries throughout his career. I mean, he's only 27 years old, which is just crazy and I think scary to think about because he's entering, I think, his 8th season in the league, 27 years old, or 27 years young, I should say. He also is probably going to miss the first month of the season, which is expected as he is still recovering from that ACL injury. Currently slated as the 12th best outfielder. I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where you see Ronald Acuna and you're just like, man, I can't pass up on him. But tearing an ACL again, going through that process again, it's going to take time. I think a good case to be made kind of with last year is Garrett Cole. I know obviously two completely different injuries, but two guys that are tops of their position. Garrett Cole, I knew this well because I drafted him. Really took a while to get integrated back into the system, back into playing at Major League Baseball. And I know pitching is different from hitting, but we see similar stories with that, and that's something that is concerning. On top of that, one of the reasons why people loved Acuna was his stolen base ability. 2023, obviously a tremendous year. 41 home runs, 106 RBIs, 337 average, 73 stolen bases. Absolutely insane. I know the base pass did get shorter, but that is nuts. 16 last year in the 49 games that he played. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, are excited about him. But something to note too, that he said on last week that he's planning to quote unquote take it easy on the base pass. Whether that means he's going to limit his, stolen bases, who knows? But taking it easy, especially for a guy like him who's dealt with the same injury before, doesn't want to have to deal with it again. If he's fully healthy and plays 130, 140 games, I don't think he gets back up to the 73 stolen bases. He'll be up there, but it is one of those things that it is concerning, especially early on. This is a guy that could have success month 2.5, month 3. But at that point, you're already halfway through the season. You're probably already trying to contend for some place, and Acuna might just not fit on your roster. What about the third guy you're avoiding?
Yeah, for me, that's Randy Arozarena. He's just, I don't know. I was kind of shocked that he was 30. We all know how he did in 2020 postseason. Like, he was amazing. Everybody saw him display his talent. But the numbers were a little surprising to me. He hit 219, 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, 20 steals. So it's pretty even numbers, 720 OPS. So to me, that just screams average. And not like me, like, I think he's a little below average in the average category, which is kind of ironic. But he's someone that I think he has a really big name. I mean, it was a big deal when he got traded from Tampa, and I think that may lead him to some bias in terms of getting drafted highly. But again, like, not a terrible option if he's not like he's a good bench option. I just don't think he would be slitting as a starting outfielder for me. Mariners, I think, are going to be a decent team this year, so I think he could definitely contribute. But 170 strikeouts, I don't like guys that have over 150 strikeouts. I know that's kind of like hard to pick and sort through, but just to me, a Arozarena is someone that I'm a little scared of to pick.
My final guy, again, another guy that's injured, another guy that can be the best at his position. It's Mike Trout. Now, Mike Trout, obviously, the last 5 years has dealt with injuries significantly where he's missed a good chunk of time. I know everyone's going to make the questions about like the what ifs, right? Everyone can make questions about Mike Trout, Byron Buxton, even Ronald Acuna. Like, what if these guys were fully healthy? But the nature of it as outfielders, especially when you play center field, you just never know because you're trying to do so much on the offensive side and so much on the defensive side that you're always seeming to get injured. Mike Trout has been bit by the injury bug time in and time out. People would argue that he could be one of the greatest of all time. We'll never know because of the fact that he's been injured so much, especially as of late. On top of that, they did move him to right field. Obviously, it's a new position move for him. Being in center field, obviously, you command the outfield, right? You're making all the plays. I think that's one of the reasons why they did move him to right field. Not that he won't get the same amount of work, but I maybe the same amount of effort and the same amount of potential of getting injured is far less decreased moving to right field than center field. On top of that, this is an Angels team that's terrible. They finished last in their division last year. I know they have Mike Trout under contract. We always wish we saw Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani in the postseason together. Never saw that. I just don't know if I can trust Mike Trout. I think he's one of those guys that he's probably going to drop in a lot of drafts, and you're going to be like, hey, it's Mike Trout, right? Like, see the name, you're like, hey, I'm going to pick him up, see what happens. You just have to know that you can't overpay on a guy like Mike Trout as much as it's tempting to, as much as you want to just go in there and say, hey, Mike Trout, he's going to be my outfielder or one of my outfielders. He's going to have this success, that success. We all know that. But how much is he going to be able to stay on the field? Because the last time he was really fully healthy, and I would even classify it as like really healthy, was 2019, 134 games. 2022, 119 games was his next best year. He batted 283, 40 home runs, 80 RBIs. The what ifs is crazy. And again, one of those guys I hate to avoid, but it seems like I'm going to have to, especially at this point with where he's at in his career. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode here on The Truth. Thank you guys for listening to the series as a whole. Hope you guys did enjoy it. We are done with the avoid portion. We're going to be moving into the sleeper portion. So the flip side of this coming up. Hope you guys are excited for that. If you guys did enjoy it and enjoy the series, please make sure you follow The Truth on Twitter, The Truth as one, to stay up to date with the latest information regarding The Truth, including podcast dates, podcast uploads, and other important information you don't want to miss. Make sure you guys also follow The Truth on Instagram and TikTok at the.tt.truth. Are you looking to find a drink that offers peak hydration, raises your energy levels, speeds up your recovery, and keeps your mind sharp through focus and memory? Look no further than Acid Rainwater. I'm excited to partner with Blind Sports AZ and Acid Rainwater, which focuses on peak hydration and productivity, while also maintaining an ecosystem-friendly product. Use code HESSON15, that's HESSON15, for 15% off every purchase. As always, I'm your host, the one you love the most, Niall Hesson, joined once again by my brother Lucas. Take care and good night.